Welcome back to With the First Pick. Today, we're fired up the old mock draft machine, going through all 32 picks. 9 teams have already been eliminated from the playoffs as we head into Week 15. And our task today, Mr. Rand Carthon, is to make these teams better by getting this first rounder right. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's former Titans GM Rand Carthon. This is episode 316. And Rand, there are 134 days until the 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh, PA. Time is a-ticking. How you doing, good sir?
Hey, man, I'm great. Like you said, time waits for no man. And I heard your little slip-in comment. That's why I was laughing when you first started. But that was good. That was good.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. Listen, before we get going here, if you're watching or listening, let us know in the comments how many quarterbacks you think are going to go in round 1. And maybe who's an underrated quarterback people aren't talking enough about. It feels like a slim pickings at this point in terms of the quarterback conversation, especially if some of the guys that may end up going in this mock draft decide to return to school. And I think the lesson, Rand, is don't count your chickens before they hatch, my grandmother used to say. So if you're planning for 2 years out for your quarterback to be Arch Manning, you better get your house in order right now before you get to looking ahead too far.
Yeah, man. I would say to our viewers and listeners, not only drop in the comments how many quarterbacks you think will go in the first round, how many quarterbacks do you feel should go in the first round? Right? Because, I mean, we know the quarterback position gets pushed up, and so we know how that game goes. But how many of these guys do you really see as first-round talents? So let us know in the comments.
All right, let's get going here. Again, we're heading into Week 15 as we record this. So number 1 at the top of the board, the New York Football Giants.
What you
They've
gonna
had a rough
do?
patch. So here's the thing. They're not taking a quarterback because they got Jackson Dart, and whether you love Jackson Dart or if, like some people in this podcast, you don't like Jackson Dart, he is going to be their quarterback of the future. Now, they got to get the head coach right and the coordinators, and they got to help him out. But I will open the door. I'm picking odds, and Rand's picking evens. I will open the door if you want to trade up, whether you're Pete Carroll and John Spytek, Mr. Carthon, or somewhere further down the board. I don't think, spoiler alert, we might be living in a world where neither the Browns at 4 or the Saints at 5 are going to be in the QB conversation, which is sort of crazy because we've been talking about it for weeks and months. Shador played well last week. Tyler Shuck played well last week. The Jets are at 7. That's me, so I can trade it with myself if I want to. But I'll ask you, I'll give you first knock at the first bite of the apple here at number 2 as the Raiders. Would you like to come up and get a quarterback?
No, because I think I could stay there and still get one of the 2 quarterbacks that you would covet potentially. And so the teams, like you said, that I would think would consider going up are 4, 5, and 7, and even pick 8. But I don't know that in the real world, I don't know that pick 8 has the ammo
right
without giving up everything in the future. I think the team that's best positioned to go up to number 1 would be pick 7, which is your pick. So.
And I'm thinking about pick 7 for sure. So let's see, just to double check here what the Jets have available at pick 7 and beyond. So they have the Colts first round pick next year because of Sauce. So they're loaded. They have the Jets second round pick next year because of Quinnen. By next year, I mean the 2026 draft. So just 134 days from now. They have the Jets the Eagles third round pick, excuse me. No, they don't. Sorry. I misread that. So they do have an extra first and an extra 2. So they're well suited to make a move up. And I think that's exactly what I'm going to do because as much as the Jets need a quarterback, the Giants need to move down and stockpile stuff in order to rebuild that team. Because tell me what you think of this. I'm of the opinion that and there's a lot, you got to get a lot of things right over the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. There's a scenario, if they trade down, for example, they get the head coach right, they figure out the GM situation, they hit on a few free agents in the draft. This could be the 2023 Houston Texans. What do you think about that? Where they drafted CJ and turn things around like that?
No, I mean, and we're speaking about the Giants, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it can be. I think the defense has enough talent. They got their quarterback. We'll see where their backfield is with Cam Scatterbo and how he returns from injury. You get Malik Neighbors back. Now, again, it is a torn ACL. We'll see how his healing process has been. But, they're well, like you said, they're well positioned. If they get everybody back, everybody healthy, they are well positioned to have a turnaround, depending on this coaching staff and if they get that pick right.
All right, producer Striker. I just talked to Rick Spielman. He is willing to make this trade. So punch whatever buttons you need to make the swap. But the New York teams are trading. The New
But
York
here's
Jets.
the thing: would you, in real life, GM Ryan Wilson, what would you give up for that pick?
I'd have to double check and see what happened in the trade ups in recent years. I don't think it could be as rich as what your 49ers gave up to get up to number 3 to get Trey Lance. I have to go back and look and see what RG3 would that cost the Commanders. But it's going to cost an extra first. Do you think it's going to be both first, number 7, and then next year's?
So I think it would definitely cost 7. You would probably have to come up off of 39. And it may potentially cost you next year's one of the ones. They'll probably ask for the higher of the 2 ones.
And then Rick would say the lower of the 2, and you would probably still take that though, right?
No, when I'm saying the higher of the 2 ones, it's the higher pick. So if
gotcha.
you have if it's pick 7 next year versus pick 18, you would get pick 7.
Oh yeah, and I would say I would give you 18.
Right.
Okay, so we would haggle over that part of it, but the other part sounds fair. So this year's first, which is 7, this year's top of the second round pick, which is essentially another first round pick, and then next year's first, we can haggle over which first is going to be because we have a couple of them. All right, we're taking Fernando Mendoza, getting our quarterback of the future there. And Rand, let's go ahead and talk about it now because we're going to get in front of it because we'll be talking about it for the next 134 days. Fernando Mendoza, best quarterback in this class. I don't even think it's close at this point, given the way he's played, especially that Ohio State game. In the Big Ten championship. He's goofy and he's quirky. Do you care?
No, I don't care because having been in the NFL locker room, you see that a lot. There are guys that are goofy and quirky, but as long as they show up to work, they handle their business and they ball on the field, nobody cares. Now, he'll be the butt of some jokes in the locker room, and as long as he can take it and give it back and he doesn't take it personal, guys on the team aren't going to care because trust and believe some of your bigger superstars in this league, whether they show it publicly or not, they are goofballs. And you never hear about it because they handle business on the field. So it won't matter.
You know, I keep going back to this conversation that I had back during the 2022 draft when Desmond Ridder was coming out. And I remember talking to him at the combine thinking, this guy makes me as an old person want to run through a wall. Like he is locked in. It didn't translate to the field. He struggled with accuracy throughout his career in Cincinnati, and he struggled with it in the pros. He was a third-round pick, never worked out in Atlanta, and he's bounced around since. I think he just was recently cut from the last team he was on. And I remember Brady Quinn saying to me just in general about it doesn't matter what you act like. If you can play, no one cares about all the other stuff. And you can be the best leader in the world. If you're throwing short hops on flat routes, no one wants to hear that either. Like, so you'll trade the quirkiness for guys that are dealing. And I think Fernando Mendoza checks that box. And he seems genuinely like a good kid.
I mean, think about it. You haven't heard any of his Indiana teammates say anything about it. And he's still relatively new to the program, right? He's only a 1-year guy at the program, but all his teammates at Indiana seem to love him. And then to me, I mean, he reminds me a lot of in just his disposition and how he carries himself like Kirk Cousins, right?
You like that?
And we make our jokes about that you like that, but you've never heard Kirk Cousins' teammates say anything negatively about the person.
Right, that's right.
I mean, that he's on the plane, he's being goofy with his Kirko chains and, doing that thing, and the teammates have fun with it. And that's why I say as long as you lean into it and you don't take it personal, you have fun with it, then guys around on the team are going to rally around you. So it's really
like
simple.
Kirk Cousins, Fernando Mendoza is tough as nails. Like Kirk will take a hit and he'll get right back up. And, when he tore his Achilles, that was a big deal because he played through a lot. So, you can make fun of the Target shirts and all that stuff. His wife laying out his clothes. At the end of the day, he was dealing before that injury. All right. So just want to put that out there, and I'm sure we'll have to talk about it a bunch more, but you're unconcerned with it. I'm unconcerned with it. Fernando can play, and I think he immediately upgrades that Jets team that also has a ton of needs like their other New York partners here. Number 2, you stood pat there, so you better get the quarterback right because you passed on QB1. Who you taking as the Raiders?
Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon. I know there's some thoughts of whether he's going to return to school. I know Oregon has deep pockets thanks to Uncle Phil, and I'm sure they could put a NIL collective together that could probably match his contract with the Raiders if they needed to. But if you're Dante Moore, you have to really strongly consider coming out with the understanding that you're probably going to be a top 5 pick. And, you could potentially be a top 5 pick as well next year. But I think we came into this season thinking this quarterback class was going to be really deep. And then now we're at a spot where we're like, man, this thing could shrink really quickly. So if you're Dante Moore, you got to weigh the option of, would you rather be a top 5 pick this year or top 5 pick next year? Like, not much is really going to change for you. So, but for this exercise, I'm taking him here, pick 2 to the Raiders.
What could change is you get on the Garrett Nussmeier train and you come back to school and you go from potentially top 32 pick to top 200 pick. I don't think that's going to happen with Dante Moore. And Gus had some injuries and whatever else is going on. Nussmeier, excuse me. But I agree. Dante Moore is my QB2 and hasn't played a lot of ball, but what he has played has been pretty high level. And if you can build around him, and I don't know if the Raiders can do that. They've struggled this year with Eugene Steele-Smith III, but he would be the guy that I would take here. All right, next up, Tennessee Titans. And I'm going to call you, Monty Austin Ford, at 8. Say, hey, Monty, what are you doing? You want to come up to 3 here and get the only other quarterback potentially that's going to go in the first round?
So we're saying that Ty Simpson is available here?
You can take Garrett Nussmeier if you want to. It's up to you. I'm asking if you want to trade up to 3.
No, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here at 8. I appreciate you calling, though.
Okay.
Go ahead and take Arvell Reese.
Yeah. All right, Striker, you heard it. Let's take Arvell Reese. We're not going to overthink it. And that might be Arvell wouldn't have been there at 8, so we had other needs we could have filled. But Arvell is a simple, easy choice here. And number 4, things are interesting here, Andrew Berry, if you want to take a quarterback. But Kevin Stefanski said that Shador's going to start the next month of the season, the final month of the season. He has gotten better each and every week. I don't know if he's the answer. I don't know if Dylan Gabriel's the answer. What are you going to do here at 4?
So before we came on, I told you I wanted to do something a little different.
Okay.
And so, I mean, let's be real. We all know that quarterback is going to be a major point of emphasis for Cleveland this offseason in terms of just evaluating it and evaluating their own quarterback. So we know that part, right? But I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this Cleveland Browns team. And the thing is you have to build a really good team, a complete team. And so my first thought I wrote down, well, they need to fix the offensive line. They need to get another tackle. Jack Conklin's getting up there in age. Cam Robinson, they acquired in the middle of the season. He's kind of been in and out. We know what Cam Robinson is. DeJuan Jones is going to be coming off an injury next year. We don't know where his weight's going to be, if he's got that part all under control. And then I look on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm like, man, this is a really good defense. And they have, a dominating front. They got some guys in the secondary that can make plays. So I say, you know what? I'm going to lean into this defense. And this is where I said I wanted to do something a little bit different, just to throw something else out there.
All right,
not saying that this is what they should do or this is what I would do if I was calling the shots. But you talk about best player available, best player on the board at this point. And for me, at the Cleveland Browns, at pick number 4, I am leaning into my defense. I am accentuating what we do really well, and we'll continue to add to the offense as well because we have another first-round pick. So at pick number 4, I'm taking Peter Woods, defensive tackle, out of Clemson, because now I have Peter Woods, Mason Graham, and Myles Garrett up front. And, oh, by the way, Myles Garrett probably should break the sack record and probably could do it again next year if we take Peter Woods.
No, I don't hate it. I'm not happy because I was targeting him as the Saints, who are picking right after you. That's a good pick. And, look, I have no issue with that because, I mean, he's going to come in. He'll be playing next to Mason Graham. You know about Myles Garrett, and that defense just gets better. I don't think – if you're strengthening yourself up the middle – that's never a bad plan. We see it feels like the Eagles draft an edge rusher every year in the first round, and they're still short of edge rushers. They just keep drafting guys and keep turning through them. They have 15 guys that seem to cycle in and out of there. All right, I don't hate it.
Because and let me throw this in there because, I do recognize, that, like I said, the quarterback need, the wide receiver need, and they could very well go. They could trade up, whatever the case may be. And as much as I like Jordan Tyson, as much as I like Cardinal Tate, I feel at number 4 is a little rich. because of the expectation of what you're taking a receiver at number 4. Are either one of those guys a true elite number 1 wide receiver that's going to be let's use young guys. Are they going to be a Malik Neighbors, a guy that's going to come in and immediately establish themselves as your number 1 guy, over 100 targets, 1,000+ yard receiver type situation? That I don't know. So, but like I said, Peter Woods, I just wanted to do something a little bit different.
No, I like it.
I got a couple more that are going to be a little bit different too, but it makes sense when you think about it.
Well, if you're watching, let us know, because I know you guys love all of Rand's picks. Let us know.
Yeah, they love to crush me. I'm cool with it because when the dust settles, I mean, it is what it is.
Let us know in the comments how you feel about Peter Woods going to the Browns. I think it's not conventional, but it makes sense if you're trying to get better up the middle. I know this team has other needs, but is there an offensive lineman that's worth that pick that you're going to take there? Is Carnell Tate worth it, even though I love Carnell Tate? And that's the conversations you have to have. All right, the Saints are up. You took my guy Peter Woods, and that's okay. Not mad. Let's take here. I'm getting back on this train. I don't care if he got 12-inch arms. I'm taking Ruben Bain Jr. for the Saints. We're going to roll with Tyler Shuck. Ty Simpson's still out there. Maybe Ty Simpson's playing the long game. He's been sort of playing mid the last few weeks, so he can fall to the Steelers. We'll see if that actually happens. But I'm taking Ruben Bain Jr., who he does have short arms. Cassius Howell has short arms. I don't know how successful, just keeping it real here, Rand, when you have sub 31-inch arms, how successful can you be going up against the Trent Williams of the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And you look at the guys that have given Trent Williams, and listen, we know Trent is 36, 37 years old, but if you look at traditionally the guys that have given Trent Williams trouble are the guys that have longer arms that can also play with power, because they can create that separation and that distance from him while leaning into that power. So those are the guys that have traditionally given him trouble. But Ruben Bain is a hard charging, tough dude. His power is real. But just what we've seen just historically throughout the game, how successful have those guys been with sub 30-inch arms? And if truth be told, and I know we get crushed in the comments for it, but if truth be told, if you go back and you watch these last few games of Ruben Bain, our other guy, Messidor, is the one that has stood out. And you notice him more in games than you have Ruben Bain. So,
yeah, Messidor's a little older. He's probably a lot older. He's almost 25, I think. But he ain't far behind, and they're quite the duo. I do wonder, like Will Anderson Jr. wasn't quite as red hot his final year in college as he was a year before, and that led to conversations about how good is he or whether he's making business decisions. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. He's making some pretty good business decisions now for the Houston Texans. Him and Daniil Hunter and the rest of that crew is getting after it. So, my whole thing is don't overthink it.
To your other point, to the Will Anderson thing, if Will Anderson was in this draft class, he'd be outside of quarterbacks, he'd be the next pick. Because I think
ahead of Arvell?
Yeah, he would be ahead of Arvell.
And the other thing is, you talk about the short arms, and I know that when you watch Ruben at his best, he is almost unstoppable. But the reason you have these measurements, and sometimes we lean on them too heavily, is that history tells you how this is going to play out. So Ruben Bain Jr. has to be, Cassius Howell, they have to be incredibly special to overcome the physical limitations that God has given them. That doesn't mean they can't do it, just says that history isn't on their side. Either way, I'm taking them here at the Saints. Line up next to Brian Brzee, let them get after it. Next up, the Washington Commanders at 6.
So Washington Commanders, we've seen this defense kind of create havoc last year and, en route to them going to the NFC Championship. And this year, the defense has held them back greatly. And I think a lot of that is because they haven't had rushers off the edge that can really get home on the quarterback. They've had to be not unconventional, but they've had to blitz a little bit more in the way they use Frankie Louvu to be their form of creating pass rush. So with that, I'm looking at two guys in particular off the edge, Auburn's Keldrick Falk and Clemson's TJ Parker. I know in that system they value size, they value length, the ability to set physical edges. Right now, I think Keldrick Falk is trending a little bit more upward than TJ Parker. I think in a perfect world, TJ Parker would be the pick here, but I'm going to go with Auburn edge Keldrick Falk at pick 6.
Yeah, no, I like it. And I think Keldrick's played a little better, a little more consistent than TJ Parker. And I don't know if TJ's hurt. I don't know what's going on, but he hasn't played quite up to the level that he played a year ago. Maybe it's a Will Anderson Jr. conversation. We'll all find out together. All right, next up, Giants trade down. They get that extra top of the second round pick, which is essentially an extended first rounder, if you will. Got next year's first as well, trading down in this mock draft with the Giants. And the question for me is, who is more valuable to the Giants at this pick? Is it Caleb Downs or is it Carnell Tate? And what I come back to is this, Rand. There's only one Caleb Downs. I can probably get my guy Denzel Boston at the top of the second. If guys like you don't love him as much as I do, and then I'll pair him with Malik coming back, and we can figure out the rest of that stuff. So I'm going to take Caleb Downs here and wait for my guy Denzel to fall to me at 38 or whatever that pick was. How you feel about that?
You know, you'll never get an argument out of me in taking Caleb Downs. So
Caleb Carthon. All right. Next up, Arizona Cardinals, who stood pat. They can still get their quarterback here if they wanted him.
Yeah, if they wanted him. But for me, and you just got to bear with me here for a second because I want to make sure. I know who I'm taking. I just want to make sure I'm right in saying this. I'm not looking up Caleb Kyler Murray's contract at this point to see if he still has an additional year yet. But here's where I wanted to go. And I wrote down their needs and two guys here that I wanted to talk about, one being Spencer Fano at the right tackle. They have Kelvin Beachum, who's been starting for him at right tackle. Love Beach, love him as a human, love what he's been able to do throughout his career, what he's been able to overcome in terms of his size, playing, right tackle, left tackle. But Beach will be 37 years old next season. And so it's really time to move on from there. And so I'm going back and forth, but then I look at the running back position and I see Bam Knight, Imari DiMercado, Michael Carter, just guys that have, never been able to take the reins at that spot ever since James Conner has went down. And we don't know where James Conner is going to be able to return just from that devastating foot injury. So again, I said at the top of the show, I want to do something that's a little bit different, make you think about it a little bit and see if it makes sense. So I am going with Heisman finalist Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love here at pick 8 for the Cardinals.
No, that's not crazy. I mean, Ashton Jeanty went 6. Jahmyr Gibbs went 12.
11, 12,
and
12.
And then Bijan went 8 as well. So they're all in the same conversation, it feels like to me. All right, next up, the Rams are here, not because they're terrible, but because the Falcons traded with them last year to get James Pierce Jr. And this looks like a win for the Rams, at least at this point in the season. So, I mean, let me ask you this. If you're watching the show, what do you think about the idea of taking Ty Simpson here and giving him a redshirt year under Sean McVay and then rolling, I think Matthew Stafford's contract's up after 2027. Matthew could play another 5 years if he wanted to, probably. So that's a consideration. Ty Simpson here. Or what I think I'm going to do, and again, let me know in the comments if you agree with this or if you'd rather roll with the quarterback and bet on the future. I'm going to go with Spencer Fano, right tackle out of Utah. They got a couple guys' contracts coming up. He can play, kick him inside if you want to. I don't know if he can. We'll have that conversation. I know he's going to have shorter arms. I think he's plenty good to play outside. But I think he moves well laterally. He can run zone schemes. He can run gap schemes. I'm not worried about that. But continue to build that offensive line out. Would you have taken Ty there, or are you okay taking offensive lineman?
No, I'm fine taking offensive lineman. I think they would probably lean towards going with, a more of a, I'm not going to say Spencer's not a playmaker, but a playmaker. Their philosophy and thought is if you're picking in the top 10, you want to get as close to a blue player as possible. So,
I actually thought about Carnell Tate, but I felt like they seem to get their wide receivers after the first round, and they all excel in that system.
I mean, that's another fair assessment too. And so I don't think that under Sean McVay, they haven't had very many first round picks as it is. But they have not taken offensive linemen very early. I know because I was there when we drafted Havenstein, and he was a second-round pick. How many ever years ago that was? 2014, 2015.
They took Steve Avila in the second round a couple years ago as well, but that might be it.
And then their starting left tackle, Alaric Jackson, I think he was an undrafted guy.
He was either undrafted or like 7th round out of
Iowa. I think he went undrafted. So
well, let me ask you this way: would you rather have a 5th round wide receiver or 5th round offensive tackle? They seem to excel with both, so maybe it doesn't matter.
I'm just thinking. Puka was 5th round. Cooper Kupp was 3rd round. Where did they take our guy that this fast guy?
Tutu was a 3rd round pick, I believe.
So I would hedge my bet on them knowing and understanding the value of a receiver and being able to get one late that fits what they do because they've got a history of it.
Tutu actually went in the 2nd round, 57th pick overall.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see. I'm going with Fano here, and we'll see if Sean and Les agree with me. I'm assuming they won't. All right, next up, Big 10 here. The Cincinnati Bengals. If Joe Burrow ain't working, we see how that looks like because he was absolutely destroying the Bills until that insane pick 6 by Christian Benford, and then Epinesa had an interception on the next series, I believe, and that sort of sealed the deal for them in Week 14. How are you fixing this Bengals team? Because they need about 10 people.
Yeah, and you looked at. Well, I know I had here written down. I had Caleb Downs' name as a name to potentially target here at 10. I had Peter Woods. Had I not taken him at 4, had Reuben Bain as a guy here because knowing that they have, 2 of their top pass rushers will be free agents after the season. So you have guys there. So again, TJ Parker could be in play for them here. One of the corners could be in play for them here. But I'm going to go with our guy, another University of Miami product, Francis Mauigoa here, because I think that's going to help secure this offensive line, fix this offensive line. And like you said, when Joe Burrow's healthy and he's upright, he gives them all the confidence in the world to win football games. And so I'm taking Big Francis here. Now, I would actually probably kick him inside the guard initially to see, how he fits there, because I do think that he could compete with Amarius Mims to start at right tackle, but it's about putting your best 5 on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't hate that pick at all. I'm a big CC fan. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll come back, and we'll get through the rest of this thing. Top 10 are in the books. We'll get to pick 11, which is the Minnesota Vikings, right after this break.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No, that is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
All right, pick 11, the Minnesota Vikings. Jeremiah Love would have been a layup here. Hey, man, shout out to J.J. McCarthy. Week 14 played much better. He missed the week before because of the concussion, and they shut out. I don't even remember who they were playing. The Commanders, I believe. They shut them out, and J.J. threw 3 touchdowns. So hopefully, fingers crossed, KOC can get that right with J.J. So let's see. What are we going to do here to help this team? Still no cornerbacks off the board. That would be a consideration here. But if my guy Carnell Tate's still sitting there, we haven't drafted him yet, have we, producer striker?
Nope.
Let's say Carnell Tate. Jalen Naylor's contract's up. Jordan Addison's contract's going to be up after the 2026 season. And I know that Justin Jefferson's been frustrated because things haven't gone his way, in part because of the quarterback, in part because of the double team. So let's help him out a little bit with another big play receiver in Carnell Tate. And I'm sort of shocked he lasts till pick 11. Next up, fighting Mike McDaniels, the Miami Dolphins. What are you going to do here at 12?
Yeah, so, I mean, again, this is one of those spots where you need quite a few spots here. You got edge, you got corner, you got interior offensive line, tight end. But the one spot we don't talk about enough for them that they need to address is the wide receiver spot, especially the devastating injury that Tyreek Hill suffered. And even if Tyreek was healthy, I don't know that Tyreek would be a Miami Dolphin next year anyway. Right. So looking at that, I know they have some other needs, but I think the best thing for the Miami Dolphins right now at pick 12, and especially in this draft, is going with the best available player. And you already took Cardinal Tate, which would be a solid pairing with Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to go with our guy from Arizona State and go Jordan Tyson here at pick 12 for the Miami Dolphins. Pair him with Jalen Waddle. I think the run game for the Miami Dolphins has done a really good job, despite the concerns on the offensive line. So much of that scheme can cover up so many things, because the one thing you got to learn about an outside zone running team is the sum has to be better than the parts. And so you can go with quote unquote lesser guys there because the scheme in terms of the alignment and just how they run everything is going to make up for that. So I'm going best player available here and going Jordan Tyson.
I love it. And it's going to be interesting to see when these wide receivers start coming off the board, because we're now on to the Ravens here, pick 13. In that draft class, Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston, was that Jackson Smith and Jigba's draft class, I think? Or Chris Olave.
I can't remember now.
Whichever one it was, they didn't go off till pick 20, then 4 went off in a row. So we'll see how these wide receivers come off the board. Pick 13 here. I mean, they desperately need interior defensive line help. They'll get Matabike back, who was lost for much of this season due to injury. What'd you say?
I said maybe they'll get Matabike back. It's a neck injury.
Oh, no.
I'm pretty sure that's something that's going to be reevaluated here over the next couple of weeks to see if he could.
Well, that complicates things because, Peter Woods is number one. Caleb Banks has a foot injury. We don't know where he's going to be. Amari Washington is a high upside guy, but are you taking him 13? I don't think so. So what I'm going to do here is take Caden Proctor, and they're losing a couple guys along the offensive line. Rosengarten plays right tackle. They have Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, but you could kick Caden Proctor inside to play guard for a year or two. But they got to fix things up front and then go from there. This is crazy to say here, even crazier than the Baltimore Ravens picking 13, picking 14, the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't remember the last time we ever said that out loud heading into middle of December, but here we are. All right, Ty Simpson's still there if you want to take him.
Yeah, because he's going to sit for 4 years.
And then sit for 4 more.
I'm going to address the defensive side of the ball here. I know they have a few receivers, one being Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster will all be free agents after the season. I expect Travis Kelce to retire following the season. Would have loved to take in a tight end here, most notably our guy out of Oregon. Just hadn't been consistent enough for me to take here at 14. And so I'm going to address the defensive side of the ball. I think they've kind of had some inconsistencies in the secondary at the corner spot. Obviously, you love Trey McDuffie, love who he is, and they've just always seemed to get those mid-round guys in the secondary, and they turn out to be really good players that also leave and go and sign elsewhere. So for me, I'm going to go with LSU corner Mansour Delaney here at pick 14.
That's a great pick. And the question is going to be the athleticism. I think he plays at such a high level that he can overcome that quotation marks, and don't fall into the Will Johnson trap where, because he might be a 4-7 guy, you let him fall into the second round when he's a first-round talent. All right, next up, pick 15, the Dallas Cowboys. I said it before, I'll say it again. Whether he did it on purpose or not, Jerry Jones is moved some things around on the old chessboard here, and it seems to be coming together. Quentin Williams was worth the price of admission. He's been really good. Donovan Zaraku, their second-round pick out of BC, he's getting better each and every week. I'm going to go to the secondary here, and I would have taken Mansour Delaney had you not, but instead I'm going to take my guy who's currently my CB1 out of South Carolina, Brandon Cece. So I'm going to take him, bolster that secondary. I considered edge rusher here, maybe a little rich for Quincy Rhodes, who I like a little bit more than most people, but I think Cece has played really well, physical corner for South Carolina, and they could certainly use more bodies in that secondary. All right, Carolina Panthers are now on the clock, and they are at pick 16.
Yes, so I'm been going back and forth in my head. I had Ruben Bain as a potential guy here with the understanding that they need to continue to add those edge guys. I know they took Nick Scorton last year, and our guy Princely took him as well. So you got some good young talent there. So that was a spot where I was really considering TJ Parker to keep him in the Carolinas. But I'm going to stay true to understanding what this defense needs under current defensive coordinator EJ Evero. And so I'm going to go with Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles.
Oh,
and give them an athletic, run-chasing, hit linebacker that can make plays on the ball.
that's a good pick. I was thinking about linebacker for my next pick. You're so down on my guy CJ Allen, so I was going to take him over Sonny Styles, but Sonny Styles had a really good season. All right, no, I like that pick a lot. Next up are the Detroit Lions. Wait, we have Detroit at 17. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there, Striker. I was looking at the Jets who picked next, apparently. All right, Detroit Lions at 17 here. Linebacker is on my radar, but I think the offensive line still needs to be addressed, especially interior offensive line. They battle with injuries, and I know Frank Radnow was supposed to come back, and then I think a physical limited his ability to come back. So while I love the idea of CJ Allen here, because they're losing a ton of guys in free agency. I know they drafted Jack, what's Jack's last name? Jack Campbell a few years ago in the first round. But he's going to need some help, but we'll have to circle back on that. Instead, let's go to the interior offensive line. Let's make our way to Happy Valley and get Vega Ione. And we're going to pencil him right in. Along that starting offensive line, they got Tate Ratledge last year in round 2, and just keep upgrading the interior offensive line and helping out Jared Goff. And we'll figure out the linebacker and everything else on defense later. They've had so many injuries. I mean, you could go on for days trying to figure out who to get next. All right. Next up, this is the Sauce Gardner pick. Jets are back on the board at pick 18 here.
So you've taken Fernando Mendoza, which is going to be an interesting conversation to see if they're forced to give up pick 18. I don't know that they will be. But then you're looking at the wide receiver spot. You know, Garrett Wilson's currently on IR. You traded for Adonai Mitchell, who's been inconsistent, but you've seen the flashes of what his good can be. They also acquired John Mechie at some point. So still not outside of Garrett Wilson. And I do believe in Adonai Mitchell's ability. I think they still need to add another weapon there, especially if you're taking the quarterback at 1. But I don't love these next guys enough this high at 18 to take one there. They've spent a lot of resources on the offensive line just in terms of the amount of first-round picks, so we're not going to go there. Then you flip over to the defensive side of the ball, and you look at what they have up front. Will McDonald's made plays, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, guys off the edge. And so you start to look at the interior defensive line, and I don't know that they would actually do this just because of the season that he's had, just in terms of staying healthy. But I think when he's healthy and he's playing up to the level that he is capable of playing, I think he's very worthy of the pick. So I'm going to go with Caleb Banks, defensive out of University of Florida.
Interesting. So, right, we got to get the injury stuff sorted out and go from there. So I was looking at defensive line as well. Next up, strikers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they have a lot of guys whose contracts are going to be up this year at interior defensive line. They got some linebackers going to be up. Levante David is one of them. Wide receiver could be in consideration here. I don't know if we want to go back-to-back. Let me ask you that. If you drafted Emeka Egbuka in one year, are you comfortable coming back next year and spending another premium pick on the same position? Not necessarily an Emeka Egbuka type, maybe a Mekhi Lemon or a Casey Concepcion, someone to do what they're going to end up potentially losing once Chris Godwin moves on.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be open to it, but again, it has to make sense.
Yeah.
And you're also got to think about you're building out this wide receiver room. Mike Evans isn't going to play forever, and the other guys in the room aren't going to play forever. So you've hit a home run with Emeka and know that he's going to be your wide receiver one moving forward and what that's going to potentially cost you down the line. So if there's a player there that you love and that you feel is the best player available, then you got to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and there's some guys I like, but in terms of guys that I love, Amari Washington was a consideration here. I don't love him here because it's a projection. But what I do love, striker, let's go to linebacker. I'm going to take my guy, C.J. Allen, who ran past on a little while ago. Going to bring him right down to Tampa. I'm going to start smacking skulls. Let's go. Done and done. Next up, pick 20. You're picking from a Pittsburgh Steelers. Ty Simpson's still there. What are we going to do? Rand Tomlin.
I don't know if I want to be Mike T right about now.
You can be Omar. How about that? You can be Rand Con.
No, I am going to go with Ty Simpson right here. It just makes too much sense to have to take your quarterback. You passed on Shedeur Sanders a number of times. You know, it was pick 21 last year. You passed on him in the third round or whatever it was, with the understanding that they knew they were getting Aaron Rodgers. I don't know that Aaron Rodgers is even going to want to come back for another year. If I'm not mistaken, isn't this the range that they took? What's the quarterback out of Pitt that's in Vegas now?
Yeah, they took Kenny 20th, I think, overall.
Yeah,
20 or 22nd. Yeah, something like that.
And I think Ty Simpson is a much better talent than Kenny Pickett. I mean, it's just the truth. So take Ty Simpson here. If he does indeed come out, take him here at 20 for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and that's the math that Ty's going to be doing. There's the deep ball concerns. I've talked about that. I've written about it on CBSSports.com. But I think if Aaron does come back, and there have been some conversations, some reports that Aaron might want to play one more year, then I think it makes sense to have a contingency plan. Some fans will tell you they want to roll with Will Howard. Will Howard was a 6th-round pick. I thought he had a chance to be a day 2 guy. So they got to figure it out. That's what happened at the end of the day. Beating the Ravens is funny, but they keep losing games the way they lost the game the week before that. Some serious conversation going to have to be had. All right, let's take another break here. Before we go to break, though, Striker, let us know in the comments, 20 picks in, your favorite pick. Let us know which pick you didn't like so much. And I read through all the comments, read through all the comments, and might even respond to you if you're polite about it. Fingers crossed. All right, let's take a break, Striker. We'll come back here and do 21 through 32 after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, Philadelphia Eagles on the clock. Sweet mercy alive, that Monday night game against the Chargers in Week 14, that was something to behold. Justin Herbert's incredibly tough, and the Eagles seem to be in disarray. I'll just leave it at that. So we'll see if they can sort it out offensively at least. All right. I think what I'm going to do here, I mean, they have surprising amount of needs. Edge rusher always appears to be one, which is so interesting to me. I think my choices are going to be between edge rusher, wide receivers consideration. I'll ask you this, Rand. September 10th, 2026, is A.J. Brown on this roster?
Hold on, let me cheat because I got him looking up his contract because contractually he might be, and I just don't know that anybody would want to trade
right
for that.
The other consideration is that I don't think that they have not redone Dallas Goedert's deal yet. His contract's going to be up after the season. He's 31, and they're going to lose Colin Granson and Grant Calcaterra as well. So that's also a consideration here.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, he'll be there.
Okay, so they can't move off of him unless they just decide to.
I think if I just saw this correct and I just blinked, it's like a $72 million dead cap hit.
Okay. So when there were murmurs that he might be traded, you have to have in the season, you have to have conversations with the team that you're trading to about how much of that they're going to eat, correct?
Well, how you just going to restructure to make it a tradable contract for both parties.
Gotcha. All right, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go with Kenyon Sneak, tight end out of Oregon. He's come along as the season's progressed. He's a fantastic athlete. We know that. He's a great blocker. We'll see what they do with Dallas Goedert and the rest of the tight ends that are up. But right now, Kenyon Sadiq. Now, pick 22. You're D'Amico Ryans fighting Houston Texans. What are you going to do here?
So this pick will ultimately come down to some version of the offensive line or defensive line. I think in real life, no matter how high or how low this pick is, and just looking at it right now and basing it off of our board, I mean, we know what this Houston Texans defense is. This is a championship level defense, but I still think that they're missing that interior D line because that could it's as great as this defense has been, it could really open up the defense even more if they had that. And a guy that you talked about earlier that I think would fit the style of play that D'Amico likes on his defensive line, on him and Matt Burke's defensive line, and I'm going to go with Amari Washington, D tackle out of Oregon.
And that feels to me like a situation where he doesn't have to do everything. He doesn't have to do hardly anything because he'll have plenty of help around him to grow into that role. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does.
And I think that certainly helps a young player, especially one who's more of a project in terms of the athleticism's there, but they're not quite yet a finished product. All right. No, I like that a lot. And that feels about the range he might go off.
Now, I will say that there are, in real life, there are probably some other guys that would be better fits that gone already. You know, I do think in a perfect world, Caleb Banks, if he's just been remotely healthy, he would fit that defense perfectly. But for this exercise, he's not on the board. And I just thought the value of Amari Washington versus the next best guard or tackle, I thought Amari Washington's value was better.
No, I get it. And I think he has a chance to be really good. I remember when at the time Justin Madubuike came out and he was a twitched up high-end athlete who was still learning what it meant to play interior defensive line. And he hit that mark. Took him about 2.5, 3 years in, and maybe that's the case with Amari, maybe sooner. All right, next up, the Chicago Bears here. And Austin Booker's been playing pretty well opposite Montez Sweat. So edge rush is a consideration here. But I'm looking at the roster here and the contracts. They have 5 guys that play safety whose contracts can be up at the end of the year, including Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So what I think I'm going to do, and Bears fans are pretty vocal, so you can let me know how you feel about it. And before you start whinging, just go watch some clips of this young man. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety out of Toledo. He's one of my favorite players in this draft class. And I know he's not playing power 4, but he could have been. And don't forget, our guy, the cornerback out of Toledo, who's plays for the Eagles now. What's his name?
Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell came out of Toledo, and he's one of the best young cornerbacks in the league. So they can put guys into the league that know how to ball. Let's go. All right, pick 24, Buffalo Bills.
Pick 24. You know, you look at Buffalo Bills, and so much has been made for Josh Allen's lack of weapons at the wide receiver spot. They've, redid Khalil Shakir's deal, but then they've had to rely on old vets like bringing back Gabe Davis into the lineup. And we know that he isn't the long-term solution. We don't know where they stand with Keon Coleman at this point. I'm also looked at the corner spot. I think in a previous mock draft, I had them taking corner. I know some of the comments, they hated that we said corner because of Christian Bainford and them having Maxwell Harrison and Teron Johnson. But I think as we've gone throughout the season, you've seen you can never have enough corners because Tre'Davious White is hit or miss given on the week and what he's asked to do. So still not going to go corner. So I know I got Stryker a little bit ahead of himself on that one. I'm going to go receiver here, and I'm looking at my board and how I have them ranked. And I'm going to go with a person that's a little bit down from my list, but I think will be a good fit just in terms of scheming open, being reliable, based off of how the Bills have played offense this year. And this is for you, Ryan. I'm going to go with Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington.
All right, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here as a Bills fan. Does he create separation more consistently than Keon Coleman did? Because that's one of the knocks on Keon. Personally, I think he does, but that may be a talking point.
Well, it's going to be a talking point, right? Because I know there are people that are going to say, what about Casey Concepcion, Makai Lemon? I think Makai Lemon his best work is going to come in the slot.
And you already have that sorted.
And you already have that. A guy that I really like that I think is a damn good football player that would fit is Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah.
I just don't know that this would be a range for him. But I think he feels more like a day 2 pick. And I could see where someone would have love for Denzel Boston in the bottom of 1. And so I think I personally think he's a guy that you're going to have to scheme open. You know, mostly, but he's a bigger target. He has better run after the catch skills than Keon. And I think he has shown, at least in college, to be a little bit more reliable pass catcher than what, Keon has shown so far in the league. And I still think Keon will be fine. It typically takes these receivers sometimes 2 to 3 years to really come on and settle in. And so I expect that out of Keon, but I still think Denzel Boston will be a good, reliable pass catcher here for Josh Allen.
No, I love it. I thought you were going to say Chris Brazel out of Tennessee. I thought it was going to be your dark horse. But they don't push the ball down the field that often either. And usually it's to the tight ends because Josh is sort of having to make plays on his own. All right, the Chargers are on the clock. And I give the Chargers a lot of credit and Jim Harbaugh a lot of credit because it doesn't seem to matter how many offensive linemen go down. They just throw some dude out there and they hold on for dear life, and Justin Herbert sort of makes it work. But I'm going to help him out here. I'm going to keep Zion Johnson's contracts up. I don't know if it's going to bring him back or not, the former first-round pick. Joe Alt will hopefully get healthy. Rashawn Slater will hopefully get healthy, and they'll have their bookends there. But let's go to the guard position. Interior offensive line, Emmanuel Pregnon, USC, transferred to Oregon. He's having a great season. I'm going to take him there, and you can plug him right in to the interior and keep on keeping on. And hopefully Justin gets healthy because he is always banged up as well. And then go from there. All right. Yeah, the very top there. There you go, Striker. Next up, your San Francisco 49ers.
What
are you going to do for Mr. John Lynch?
Well, here's the problem. They've been decimated by injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And I just think right now it's so much of what this defense is asked to do is based off of what they get out of their defensive line, their defensive front. And they've made multiple moves. They've traded for Bryce Huff. They've traded for Keon White. And all of these were just to kind of settle this defensive front. And so not having Nick Bosa really hurts them. And then this guy is still available, still one of the top pass rushers, and would have been an earlier pick had he played with more consistency this year. But you talk about there's a certain look that they go for in San Francisco in having the bigger, longer, more powerful guys. And so for me right here, I'm going to take TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson.
And again, this could end up being a situation where we overthought it because he wasn't balling out like he did in 2024. We don't know exactly why he's not playing to that level, whether it's business decisions or injuries or whatever, but he's a really good football player. All right. Pick 27. Back to the Browns. This is the pick, the Travis Hunter pick. Jaguars are playing out of their minds, of course. So who did we take early? Oh, Rand took interior defensive lineman Peter Woods. Man, I'm glad Ty Simpson is gone because that would be a conversation. So let's not have that conversation. Let's go to wide receiver because we got to help out. So what we got? We got Makai and Casey Concepcion. And then let's go. God, Chris Brazel is actually interesting here because he can push the ball down the field. And let's also go to offensive line. And let's see which offensive tackles are there because that's going to be a real need as well. Caleb Lomu's still there. I don't think he can start right away. He's going to have to gain some weight probably. I think he's a really good player. The other offensive tackles, Brian Parker's in a similar situation. You know who does intrigue me is Carter Smith, the left tackle for Indiana. He's as solid as they come. I don't see him on this list here. But what I think I'm going to do, Carter Smith is at 88. He's going to get drafted higher than that. I think he's going to be in the first-round conversation. Trevor Gooseby's another name who's had a good season for Texas. But I'm going wide receiver here. And I think I'm going to go with Casey Concepcion. I don't know what Jerry Jeudy's future is. And if we just only draft wide receivers from here on out and some offensive linemen, I think that would be a win for this team. So we got Casey Concepcion and Peter Woods for either Shador Sanders or Dylan Gabriel, perhaps someone else. But I think that's a great start if you are the Cleveland Browns. All right. Dallas Cowboys took Brandon Cece, the cornerback out of South Carolina, at pick 15. They are now on the clock again at pick 28. This is the Micah Parsons pick. What are you going to do, Rand?
Yeah, man, I'm looking at this and going kind of back and forth in terms of what they could do. You look at wide receiver, and I think that position kind of has settled itself with the acquisition of George Pickens. I love where this offense is. They've spent a lot of resources on the offensive side of the ball, and their defense is catching up. Can we look at, well, let me see, because I was going to say linebacker. Overshown should be healthier 1 year removed. You acquired Logan Wilson. Corner, you've already taken a corner here with Brandon Cece. Still think they need edge help. Let's go to edge. And I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I have some guys that are rated higher than say David. Not some guys. I do like R. Mason Thomas. I just think his lack of size.
Well, we said that about Donovan as Raku. But can you have two little guys? Quotation marks.
That's the problem. If you want to be better against the run, you got to have bigger guys that can set the edge. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not all that fired up on David Bailey. I think he's a good player. I just, again, day one is a bit rich for me. So let me continue to look at my list. And I'll just say, you know what? You said he'll probably need a year to grow and get bigger, but I think it'll be a easy slide in because I do think this position for them is a little bit can be better. So at pick 28, I'm going to go with offensive tackle Caleb Lomu.
Yeah. No, he's going to be a good player. I do wonder when you're off the top of my head, I think he's like 6'5", 305. And even though he's pretty stout in terms of his pass sets and his anchor, it feels like when you're that size and you weigh 305, you got to gain 10 pounds at least to play offensive tackle in the league. Is that just oversimplification, or can you play it that way? Because it feels like those guys coming out oftentimes get pushed around early.
No, you can play it that way if you got your fundamentals and techniques right, because that's what it boils down to. Is being able, you've played football. They tell you, low man wins.
Yeah. And
so low man wins, inside hand placement, beating guys to points, understanding angles. So all that helps. But if he's 305 now, he's going to have an off season of training where it's just focused on him. And most of these guys, when they go into these programs, to these elite combine training, programs, they know like, hey, I need to add 5 to 10 pounds. And so they typically do. And so probably by the time he walks into an NFL building, if he's 305 now, he'll be anywhere between 312 to 315. So he'll get there probably within this offseason.
All right. Yeah, no, he's a good player. And you've talked about this before. There's a reason they moved Spencer Fano from left side to the right side, because they had Caleb Lomu and they felt comfortable with that. And it certainly worked thus far. Pick 29, Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. Man, they got a ton of wide receivers whose contracts are going to be up, but they also have some cornerback needs. I don't think Reek Woolen is coming back. I'm going to go with a guy that we haven't talked a lot about, but I watched him a few weeks ago and was thoroughly impressed. Let's go to cornerback, striker, and let's go down to Arkansas, home of Bobby Petrino. I'm going to go with Julian Neal, who is a long physical corner. He's listed 90 here. He's going to be drafted higher than that. And excels in press man coverage. He comes downhill and run support. He moves well in space, change direction. Sounds like a Mike McDonald type cornerback to me in terms of the length and the way in which he plays. Again, we haven't heard a lot about him, but I think he has a chance to, much like, who's the cornerback that the Commanders drafted last year in the second round, who had a lot of first round buzz?
Trey Amos.
Trey Amos, thank you. It feels like he's going to have a Trey Amos type move up draft boards as we get through this process here. So we'll see. All right, 3 more picks to go. Pick 30. Your guy Mike Vrabel is on the clock. This team is picking 30th overall as we sit here. They are 11-2 heading into Week 15. What do they need?
Well, I think the big thing that they need off the top is adding more edge rush. You wouldn't be wrong if you went with a receiver here. To me, if they're going to go receiver, they're going to go with a guy that can really stretch the field more. I know Keyshawn Butte has kind of been in that role.
Yeah, man.
And he's done that. I think at one point in the season he was averaging like 18 yards a catch. So Chris Brazzell would potentially be a guy here, but I'm going to trust myself and go with a guy that I believe in, that I think can really do some things, especially off the edge. And I mean, we've seen the production that they've gotten out of Kayvon Chason off of the edge, and he's not the biggest guy, even though I think he's a little bigger than what he is or what people think. And I'm starting to believe this about the guy I'm going to take here. So I'm going to go with R. Mason Thomas
Nice.
out of Oklahoma. I just think he'll fit a Mike Vrabel culture really well because he plays so hard and so violent. And I think those are some of the key things that Mike Vrabel preaches.
Yeah, he's a good player, and that's a situation sort of like Donovan Ezeraki. You try to talk yourself out of it because he doesn't hit all the physical landmarks, whereas David Bailey hits the physical landmarks, but he's not as consistent as R. Mason Thomas. And those are the conversations to have working up through the draft. So I like that pick a lot. Pick 31, Rams back on the clock. This is their pick. They took Spencer Fano, 9th overall, the offensive lineman out of Utah, and that was the pick they got from the Falcons. Now pick 31. So what I think I'm going to do, and they need cornerback help, I think it's going to come down to me between Avion Terrell, AJ Terrell's brother, or Jamad McCoy. And I know Jamad's coming off the ACL, and by coming off, it's been almost 12 months now, so he should be good to go. Certainly once the pre-draft process starts, and definitely by the time August rolls around. I'm going to lean towards Jamad here because he's bigger, a little bit more physical, although Avion Terrell is a really good cornerback, but I think physically Jermont's a little further along. I'm taking Jamad McCoy, cornerback for the Rams. Last one, Denver Broncos. Currently have the best record in football. Crazy. All right, what are Sean Payton and George Payton, doing to help this Broncos team?
Well, I mean, they actually could go a number of ways. Dre Greenlaw at linebacker has battled injuries. He's starting to come back around. Alex Singleton has missed some time with his cancer diagnosis, but he's coming around. I think they could use some help at corner. I think they could add an outside guy there. Avion Terrell would be very interesting here, but I think he's probably still more in the mold of a Jahdae Barron type, which you already have, which you're still trying to figure out a role for him. Had Jamad McCoy been here at 32, I think that would have been a slam dunk home run. Put him in there and just don't look back. Also looking at, I thought wide receiver here, seeing Makai Lemon still on the board there, and just looking at my rankings here, him or Jeremy Bernard at this point. Still, Jeremy Bernard still feels like a day 2 pick to me, and again, that's overthinking it. If I'm being honest with myself, so right here, I'm gonna address the defensive side of the ball with this first round pick. Real quick before I do that, can we pull up tight end real quick? Yeah. So, and where did you take Kenyon Sadiq?
Where did we take Kenyon? Little 21 to the Eagles.
21. Okay. So this is a guy that Ryan and I talked about offline yesterday. And I think he would be a really good addition to this defensive front.
Oh boy.
Pair well with those guys. And I'm going to go with the young fella out of The Ohio State University, and I'm going to take Caden McDonald.
All right, so I got to ask the question that I asked you yesterday. Fantastic against the run, doesn't give you much as a pass rusher. You're okay drafting a 2-down lineman at this point?
Yeah, because, I mean, it's at pick 32. And
Yep.
I think he will be a really good run defender. And the way they play their defense, I mean, John Franklin Myers will kick inside. Malcolm Roach will kick inside to those 3rd down situations. So it's not a situation where he has to play a ton. as a pass rusher. They're not counting on him for that type of role. And he will eventually replace DJ Jones, who will be 31. And DJ's playing lights out, but he'll eventually replace DJ and play a similar type role.
Yeah, and much like we talked about Amari Washington going to Houston, his role will be defined, and that role won't include him having to do everything because you're playing on a unit that gets after it. So you just do your job and do your job well, and that's all you need to concern yourself with. So I get it. The thing I keep coming back to is when Ali McNeil and Milton Williams, they were in the same draft class as interior defensive linemen, went in round 3. I sort of have trouble reconciling that with Caden McDonald being a first-round pick. They do play.
Well, but again, too, you got to think about each draft class is different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just because they went third round, and to me, I'm not looking at it. Sometimes I do look at it that way, but when I look at it that way, I'm basing it off of my grade.
Yeah.
What grade did I have on Aleem McNeil? What grade did I have on, let's say, Caden McDonald? And again, different kind of players, right? Because Lee McNeil was more twitchy, more gap penetrating, still had some stoutness to him to hold the point. So again, you got to look at each draft class different. But if you're bringing them both together, you got to see, like, are you comparing apples to apples? Did I have Caden McDonald graded similarly than that I do this other guy? And again, the depth of that position, how deep is that? Position? Because again, and I said, and I'm guilty of it too, because I've said it multiple times here, though this guy feels more like a day 2 pick. And I always go back to when we drafted Rob Havenstein at the Rams, and you're sitting there, and that year the tackle class wasn't deep at all. And so by the time it got to our pick in the second round, the grade wise that we probably had him at, well, he was Rob Havenstein, let me say this first, was the first player in my scouting time that every single scout, every single coach had the same exact grade on. That was the first time I've ever seen that much consensus on a guy. And typically the grade that we had on him, typically at that time was going around the third round. But if you're sitting there, and I remember Les saying, okay, if we're sitting here saying that this guy will be, you feel better about it in the third, and we're trying to wait to the third, and he's the next best tackle on the board, you just take him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's where you get with Caden McDonald, because now you got to ask yourself, how much is the drop off between Caden and the next guy if you're trying to wait for him to be a day 2 pick, because that's where guys before went.
Yep. And there's Christian Miller out of Georgia, Lee Hunter, Bear Alexander, Dom Orange. So those are the names that you got to have the conversations about. I get it. And Caden plays more zero over the center than certainly Milton and Aleem did. So there are different players in that sense. And you're going to a system, again, where you're not asked to do everything. All right. Before we get out of here, let us know in the comments which one of these picks you like the most. Let's do something positive, and then, of course, you can say which one made you the angriest. And we'll read through all of them, and I'll have a good chuckle reading through them, no doubt about it. That's it. That's a wrap for this latest edition of the Mock Draft and with the first pick. Thanks to all you guys who watch and listen and comment, and we will see you guys in the next one.